Ray, what's your view on what Dak said?
Look, I think I totally agree with him. I mean, I think me being raised, I was raised in the country, and it was really interesting how rude kids was at times to kids who were mixed, who had parents that were, one race or a different race. And you would hear the things that they were saying, mixed breeds and all these different things. But I think his perspective on both sides, he can weigh in on from every level. And I think when you think about what this kid has dealt with his whole life, right? If you're in a white community, they're saying, oh, this black kid. If you're in a black community, oh, you're a white kid. And so he's had to adjust to say, okay, how do I balance this out? Because either way, and I say this all the time, he's still a freaking human being, right? And I think that's what people don't really realize. He has a mother, he has a father, he had and so I think the thing is, he had to grow up early to understand it, and now I think he appreciates having both sides of the fence, and that's why I really think this kid, and you can tell his maturity on not just football, you can tell his maturity off the field came from his upbringing, from his parents. So regardless of what their race is, both of his parents has done a heck of a job raising that kid.
It definitely helps, because unless me being a black man, I can speak to being a poor black man, growing up in rural South Georgia. I can't speak to being a white man like Skip Bayless can. I can't speak to being a multiracial female like Joy Taylor can. He has black parents, black grandparents, white grandparents. So he knows what to say and how they communicate. I communicate with Ray differently than I communicate with you. You communicate with your friends differently than you communicate with me, and so forth and so on. But as a leader, it's your job is to lead everybody, but you can't lead them all the same. You see, in the locker room, I don't know if people know this, O linemen, they're together. D linemen, they're together. Linebackers are together. Every group are in their own group. Me as a leader, I made it my business to pop in on some of everybody. Joke, laugh, and carry on with everybody. And guys that were injured, when you're injured, Skip, it's a lonely place. You're isolated. You can't do anything, and coaches are not really talking to you. So me, I go over there and cheer, like, man, are you, I'm joking, are you really hurt? Like, man, for a second, I thought you were scared to go up against Reggie White or Derek Thomas. I'm joking to get them in a fine place. Also, I was very observant in the locker room. I was very observant on game day to watch how they interact with the wife, the kids, if they have in-laws in town, they had their parents in town. So I'm looking, Shannon, hey, Sharpe, come here, I want you to meet somebody. So now, I'm getting a sense of who and how they operate. That's always a good thing. But the number one thing about leading, you can be white, you can be black, you can be Latino, you can be Asian. Are you winning? If you win, they will follow you. I can assure you, if Jay Cutler could win, his petulant, his boorish, his apathetical attitude would not bother anybody. But he doesn't win. Dak Prescott, all that may be well and good that you're multiracial, but you're winning. Don't ever lose sight of that. That's why. You can relate to a lot of different people, but as a leader, can you lead us, and are we winning as you lead us?
Okay, back to Ray. And I do think you were the greatest leader I ever observed in the history of sports. And you obviously were in the same locker room, and you were, in of your own right, a great leader. So did you feel like you had to deal differently with some white guys because you didn't have the connection you would have had with some of your black teammates? Oh,
yeah, absolutely. So listen, it's something very unique. Shannon just kind of hit on it. When you're in the locker room, one thing you do as a leader, you observe everybody differently. And you see what it is they like to talk about, what it is they like to eat. Like Shannon, you go in the cafeteria, white guys sometimes on the left, black guys on the right. White guys' conversation totally different than the black guys. But I would get with everybody. Like, I mean, my gosh, the conversations that I've had with so many, just white guys that color never became an issue because it was like just pure conversation. But you have to know how to adjust to those guys. You have to know how to read them because you can't just walk in a white conversation and say, yeah, I know what that feels like. No, you do not, right? And then when you come in a black conversation, but now, this is where it gets a little bit crucial because when you're in the locker room and you're in the middle of one of those conversations, now you have to take a very divided side. You have to say, okay, wait a minute. Let me speak from a neutral, right? Think a thought process because a lot of guys definitely aggressively on one side, then not, you know, the kind of conservative on another, and you have to be right here saying, "No, wait, let's look at that differently." And that's why I think leadership plays such a crucial role, because it brings all of those things together. And just like Shannon said, it's irrelevant once you actually started to put it together, because you keep winning, everybody the same color.